Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to HealthyEqualsHeal-Thy podcast, where we have uncomfortable conversations in order to expand our minds, to ignite healing and growth on our own individual journeys to becoming our greater selves. On today's episode, we will be discussing residue of childhood trauma. Now, I know that is a deep topic, but it has to be talked about. So let's have the conversation. I would like to inform you guys that the residue of childhood trauma will be the kickoff, I should say, of a mini series that I am doing, and it's going to be entitled The Journey to a Better Me. So like I said, it's going to be a mini series. I'm not sure exactly how many episodes it will consist of right now, but for sure the residue of childhood trauma will be the kickoff episode, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. So I hope you guys have your pen and paper, because we're taking notes, and we're getting to our best selves. We're growing and we're flourishing, and we're going to do it together. So let's get right into it. Now, to kick off the conversation, I would like to give you guys the definition of residue. Residue means an amount of something that remains after the main part has gone or been taken away or used. And I'm also going to give you the definition of trauma, which is an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, a rape, a natural disaster. Long-term reactions to trauma can include unpredictable emotions, flashbacks, strained relationships, and sometimes even physical symptoms. There are three main types of trauma. One is acute trauma, results of a single accident, something that occurred one time. You have chronic trauma. It's something that's repeated and prolonged, like domestic violence or some type of physical abuse. And you have complex trauma, which is exposure to multiple traumatic events, often invasive and interpersonal nature. Now, I know everybody has not endured childhood trauma, and I also understand that a lot of people have, me being one of those people. So I am speaking from a very unique perspective because I myself endured childhood trauma. And to be perfectly honest with you, the residue resided within me for a very, very long time. And I will honestly say, because I want to be very honest and transparent with you guys, I am 32 years old. And in my 32 years, I will honestly say that the little girl in me that was traumatized as a child has just begun to be healed within the last year, when I decided to take on the path, take on the journey of healing and actually developing new thoughts. Now let's talk about the direct link between childhood trauma and insecurities. Going through trauma and brokenness so early on in life trains a child that pain is normal. And the devastating reality of it all is that early childhood trauma induces insecurities by causing a disruption in an innocent child's spirit. And that's why today a lot of women have not fully healed and still to this day functions out of the little girl spirit. I call it the broken little girl syndrome. Security, by definition, is uncertainty and anxiety about yourself. Basically, a lack of confidence in who you are and who you were created to be, and not believing in yourself. Insecurities can prevent you from becoming who you are purposed to be and where you could go in life by standing in your way and causing you to be stagnant. It truly holds you back. And it's time to stop hiding behind the little girl, the broken little girl within you. The hurt and the brokenness of her is causing you to have a lot of things in your life not go the way that they could go. Now, I understand going through traumatic events so early on in life basically reprograms you. And it becomes a sense of you normalizing the things that you've been through. without even seeing that that's exactly what's going on. And I honestly believe that's why predators approach situations with young children, because you have that opportunity to mold them. In the Black community, I've even heard the term, you're grooming them. And it's time to get out of the way of what other people has done to you and move forward in who you know you are. Now, I know that is definitely easier said than done. But if you truly decide today, it's time for me to heal, it's time for me to prosper, you have to go within yourself, and you really have to talk to God and ask Him for the strength to go on this journey. Healing from childhood trauma, healing from life situations that has been connected to the things that occurred in my childhood has been difficult. It makes you look at life differently. And I honestly believe going through childhood trauma sets the person back. So you already have a disadvantage because you have this fear inside of you because of the things that has happened to you. But I want you to know today that you are worthy of healing and you shall heal. You have to declare that it's time for a change in your life. And in the Black community, I can honestly say I personally have not seen any positive reference of a woman, and I'm not saying on TV or on Instagram, in my personal direct life. Just looking at the women around me, I have never seen a woman going within, healing from the things that happened to her and really putting forth the effort to become a whole person all around, by being completely healed and functioning out of love. And I know a lot of people may not like that statement, but it's true. And the whole purpose of my podcast is to be honest, because I honestly want us to be transparent with one another. And that's how you move forward to becoming a better you. Telling you have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with the things that you have been through. And a lot of times the hurt creep in too, because I know in my family growing up, a lot of things was brushed under the rug. So the family will know this child is being touched, or this child may not have enough food in the house. That's a part of childhood trauma too, not having enough to eat. Or this child is locked up in the house and their mom is on drugs. Like, it's so many things that could result from childhood trauma, and it's so many different forms of childhood trauma, and none of them can or should be discounted, because anything traumatizing that you went through, it's not easy to overcome it, but it's definitely possible. So I went off on a tangent right there, but I want to get back to the reference that I made about not seeing any positive things really take place in my childhood. I didn't see my aunts or my uncles and things like that talking about going within and talking about healing and things like that. So when you don't have the blueprint handed down to you and all you have is generational trauma and on top of the trauma you've already endured, piling on top of each other, it's like, where do I go from here? But once you get to that age of awareness and you know that something is off, and those things that happened to me were not normal, those things are not right, now you can start putting in the work. You're aware of what's went on with you. And I know this is a testy topic, but forgiveness is important in the healing journey. And I know a lot of times, a lot of the people who do sexually abuse children or abuse them physically, even emotionally, like I said, get away with it because the family pushes it under the rug and leaves the child full of brokenness. And with no, like I said, blueprint on how to overcome what just occurred to me. But healing has been one of the hardest things I have ever done in my life. I've cried, I've screamed, I've questioned God why these things happen to me. It's just been a long road to healing, and I want the same for you. I want you to be able to heal and to move forward into your destiny and who you're supposed to be. And understand that the things that you went through as a child, the mistreatment, the abuse, the overlooking, whatever it was that caused this traumatic event in your life, you are worthy of overcoming that. Remember, forgiveness is not for the predator or the person who hurt you. It's not for them. It's for you. Because once you get to that point of forgiveness, it can no longer affect you as much as it did before. Once you get to the realization that what happened to me is not normal and I was violated, you have accepted the fact that this is my reality. Now you can move forward and you could grow and flourish into who you are purposed to be. See, the inner work is very important. The inner work is extremely important, and a lot of the times people like to dress up their problems. So you've been through childhood trauma. The residue is lingering inside of you, and now you're a grown woman. And that broken little girl, what I mean by the broken little girl syndrome is you're functioning out of her. You're not functioning out of I am a grown woman and I'm handling my business. You're making decisions still from that same state of mind of that broken little girl. And the inside void, you cover it up with physical attributes. You keep your nails done. You keep your lashes done and pile makeup on your face, which is nothing wrong with that if that's what you desire to do. But don't cover up your wounds. It's time to heal them. It's time to heal them and do the inner work, because yes, outer beauty is nice, but what's on the inside? And you owe it to yourself to go within and really figure out how to get to the next level in your life. And the first step is to acknowledge that these things happened to me. And the second step is to get to the point of saying, you know what? I didn't deserve that. I deserve better. I forgive who did this to me, and I forgive myself for not waking up soon enough. And it's time for me to break this cycle of the broken little girl, because I refuse to pass that down to my daughter. I refuse to pass that down to my son. And it's time for me to do the work, not only for me, because see, this is bigger than me. It's time for me to do the work so that my children, so that the people around me in my direct circle could see a different narrative. A lot of times in the Black communities, we see more negative than we see positive, and I'm just being 100% honest. I'm just being 100% honest. We see more negative than we do positive. And it's time to change that narrative. And it starts within every household. It starts with that one person who wakes up and say, you know what? It's time for better. And today is going to be that day for that better. It may take me a while to get there, but I'm willing to start today, and I'm willing to put in the work. No longer will I hinder myself and hold myself up against the things that somebody else chose to do to me. That's not my fault, because it's not your fault. Anything that happened to you in your childhood is not your fault. And it's directly connected to what that person had going on within themselves. And a lot of times, people, they project their problems and their issues and their insecurities on other people. And I honestly believe that people who get into the realm of hurting children are some of the worst human beings in the world. And it shows you the lack of self-control. And it is just a devastating situation. But through this episode, we're really going to grow together, and we're really going to work through the traumas that did happen in your childhood. And we're going to discuss different methods of how you can overcome the broken little girl syndrome, and to step outside of those insecurities that has been preventing you from becoming who you are meant to be. So I recently just watched a movie on Amazon Prime called The Broken Rose, and oh my goodness, it was a very heavy movie, but a lot of truths were exposed in the movie. And these are things that occurs every day to many different girls and boys. And the story was based around a young black girl who was removed from her father's home because he didn't have a way to feed her and he was struggling. And social services came in and took her. And then after that, they showed her as a teenager in high school. And her foster father raped her. And he was sleeping with her. And every night he'll get off bed with his wife and he'll go into her room and sexually abuse her. And as she grew up older, the wife got tired and basically she had her removed from the home. And with that being said, she ended up in a group home where she ended up finding this guy who was her friend's pimp, and basically a toxic cycle of looking for love in the wrong places and functioning out of all and that's hurt and trauma. Rose ended up dying by the end of the movie. So we have so much more to unfold, you guys, and we're going to continue this topic next week on Friday at 7 p.m. because it did get kind of heavy, and I am going to go in depth of everything that occurred to me as far as my childhood trauma next week. So please tune in Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll see you guys next week. Hello, beautiful people. You have just experienced the Healthy Equals Heal-Thy podcast, where we do have uncomfortable conversations in order to expand our minds, to push us on our own unique journeys to becoming our greater selves. I would like to thank each and every one of you who did tune into this week's episode, and I definitely hope to see you back next week on Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where a new episode will be provided every week on Fridays. I want each and every one of you to know that you are absolutely beautiful and you are definitely worthy of living the life that you desire to live. And once again, I want you to understand that you are worthy to smile. So don't forget to smile today because you are definitely deserving to. And until next time, my loves, I am signing off for now, and I will see each and every one of you next week, Friday.